Hello everyone, welcome to SportSource, your number one source of sports, and today we're talking about the Utah Jazz and if they're real 2020 title contenders. But before we do that, smash that like button and subscribe for more NBA news and discussions. Without further ado, let's begin the video. So the Jazz are probably the biggest winners of the 2019 NBA offseason because, the free agency, they got Bogdanovich, they got all these great depth guys, and they also traded for Mike Conley. So we're just going to be talking about this team, this Utah Jazz team, and if they're true title contenders. And the short answer of it is yes. I think that Utah Jazz are a team to watch out for. They should be on everyone's radar, and I think that they are a true contender this year. And here's why. You look at what they did last year, and, we'll start from 2 years ago when they beat the Thunder with Donovan Mitchell's rookie season. Now, that was magical. Now, the past 2 seasons, it's kind of been the same team. They've had Rubio, Donovan Mitchell, Gobert, Joe Ingles, and Jay Crowder. But then they traded Jay Crowder and Korver and all that stuff to get Mike Conley, which I think was a really, really good trade. I thought Mike Conley was a really great fit for the Jazz, and I think that that's where I want him to go the most. So, that takes some pressure off of Mitchell because Mitchell did not do good in last year's playoffs, the 2019 playoffs against the Rockets. It just wasn't very good at all for him. He did do good in his rookie season, and he had a slow start to the 2018-2019 season, but then he eventually picked it up. I feel like one of the big reasons is, he didn't really improve on his playmaking and facilitating too much. I would still like to see some more playmaking and ball handling out of him. And, there's already enough pressure on him as a scorer because last year at least, he was the only guy you could really count on to score the basketball. So there was a lot of pressure on him for that. And, he just didn't facilitate enough, I feel like. But that's okay because now they got Mike Conley, who just came off a career year. He is going to be a free agent at the end of this year. And yes, he is getting older. But Mike Conley is still a guy that could, handle the ball. He can play good defense. He could fit right into that Jazz defensive system. And, he could play make, he could shoot, he could score, and kind of take that pressure off of Mitchell. And I think that this team just got way deeper and way better in the offseason. So I already talked about Mike Conley. Mike Conley, obviously an amazing acquisition via trade. But what did they do in free agency? Well, they got Bojan Bogdanovich. And he had a really, really good season with the Pacers last season. Once Oladipo went out, everyone kind of thought they were screwed and that they were going to fall maybe even out of the playoffs. But then Bogdanovich was like, look, I'm going to be the primary scorer. And he was the primary scorer. He was really good. I think he averaged like 19 points last year. He's a very good scorer. And he can shoot the ball well. He can take that pressure off of Mitchell, like I said. And, Mitchell obviously will still be that first scoring option, but you won't rely on him every single possession like the Jazz have been doing. And they'll have more buckets. They still have the great defense that they've maintained, but now they're just a way better offensive team with the addition of Conley and Bogdanovich. Now, the problem with the Pacers last year was Oladipo went out and they were playing the Celtics. Now, the Celtics were terrible last season. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Yes, they still made the playoffs, and yes, they still did all right and made it to the second round, but they were not good at all. And the Pacers, if I'm being honest, if the Pacers had a healthy Victor Oladipo, they would have won. But Bogdanovich isn't really, or he's not a guy at all that could be your first scoring option on a championship winning team. But I think that on this Utah Jazz team, him as a third option, maybe second option at time, I think that he could be a really good player for them. And he's probably going to start small forward for them. So you got Conley, Mitchell, Bogdanovich on your point guard, shooting guard, and small forward position. Now, you obviously, big man, you got Rudy Gobert, the back-to-back defensive player of the year. He's just a stud. I think that he could be a key part to a championship winning team. This team wants to go all in. I think that Gobert's a really good piece. Mitchell's a really good piece. You got Conley as a really good piece. You got Bogdanovich as a really good piece. And then you're like, oh, well, what's their depth looking like? Their depth is amazing, and that's what separates them. I mean, obviously, getting Conley and Bogdanovich obviously really improves your team, but just getting that extra depth really just improves this team to another level that I think can compete for a championship. Because think about it. Yes, the Warriors lost Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson is injured, but, I think that next year, if the Lakers sign Kawhi, because as I'm recording this, he hasn't signed anywhere yet. So if the Lakers sign Kawhi, it's not as wide open. But if the Lakers strike on Kawhi, the league is literally wide open. And even if the Lakers do sign Kawhi, there's not enough depth. And plus, I think that, I forgot to mention, Quinn Snyder's an amazing coach. So I just think that he can outcoach Frank Vogel and the Lakers. Obviously having a good coach elevates your team a lot. Quinn Snyder, I thought he was a dark horse candidate for me to win Coach of the Year 2 years ago. And, he's just an amazing coach, defensive coach, and he could really balance that offense, I think. I don't think that there's too many offensive weapons for this team. I think that there's just enough so that they could score a lot, defend a lot, and everyone will be happy with their touches and minutes. So now let's talk about the depth that they signed. Well, they got Jeff Green, who might be their starting power forward. I don't know who they're going to run at the power forward position because they lost Favors to the Pelicans in free agency. So, you got Jeff Green there who can still space the floor. He's still a scorer. He's athletic. He's decent for them. All you need is really a floor spacer next to Gobert because Gobert is going to take up a lot of the paint. So I think that having a floor spacer there would be good. Gobert, he actually improved offensively last season. So, you just want that floor spacing on this team to kind of space out the offense. So I think that Jeff Green can do that. He was a cheap signing, I think 1 year, $2.5 million. So that was a really, really good deal, and he could be a decent player for this team in the future. Now, do you know who else they have? They have Joe Ingles, who might move to the bench now that they have Bogdanovich, or they'll play him at power forward. I don't know how they're going to run it because they have lots of forwards right now, but they have Joe Ingles, who I love Joe Ingles. He's very underrated, great three-point shooter. He's a pretty good playmaker, good scorer, and off the bench, I think he could really be utilized as just an amazing shooter, scorer. He could shoot efficiently for you, and he could just be that spark plug off the bench that your team really, really needs. He can still play a lot of minutes. When you're saying that he's on the bench, he's still going to play a lot of minutes for you because he's Joe Ingles and he's really good, but he could be a valuable piece of this team. So you got those guys. You got Jeff Green, you got Ingles. You also have Emmanuel Mudiay, who you signed, which I really, really like that signing because they got that backup PG because they have Dante Exum, but he's really, really injury prone, and he's looking like a bust. I think he was drafted with the 6th pick or 5th pick. He was a high overall draft pick a couple years back. But you got Emmanuel Mudiay, who I think he can prove himself. He did good with the Knicks. I think he could be a good backup PG, still get valuable minutes. I think he could still play off of Mitchell, Bogdanovich, Jeff Green, Gobert. I think he can still play off those guys really good. And yeah, I'm just really, really, really liking this team right now. They just fit all perfectly together, I think. And not to mention, they also have Ed Davis on their team, a great backup big man, so that Gobert doesn't have to play all the time. Ed Davis could come in, he could rebound, He's just a very, very, very solid backup big who they also got for cheap. Not to mention, they also have guys like Cephalosha. They have Ekpe Udo. Those are more guys later in the rotation that might not even play in the playoffs. But for the regular season, I like Cephalosha. Ekpe Udo's kind of being pushed out because of Ed Davis. But yeah, this team, you have lots of really good players on this team. Conley, Mitchell, Bogdanovich, Jeff Green, Gobert, Mudiay, Ingles, Ed Davis. You got all these amazing players, all this talent, a great coach. They're not getting a lot of media attention right now because they're a small market and they're the Utah Jazz. But I think that this team, the general manager, the management, they've done perfectly for themselves because they went from losing their best player in Hayward to free agency. They got Mitchell and they lucked out on Mitchell. Like, he is a stud. He's the whole reason they're here. They would probably be in full rebuild mode if Mitchell wasn't here, but Mitchell makes the Jazz confident that they can win games now, and that's why they kind of built this great team around him. So they went from a team losing Hayward to this with great management. They had cap to get all these guys, and I think that they could be a championship contender for next season. I really hope that Mike Conley re-signs. Maybe he takes a pay cut. I'm not really sure, but he is a free agent at the end of next year, and next year's free agency class is kind of dead. So I'm really hoping that Mike Conley has a really good year, maybe gets a championship, and comes back to this Utah Jazz team. Thank you for watching. What do you guys think of the Utah Jazz? Let me know down in the comment section below. Are they really title contenders for this season? Because I think so. That's all for me now. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.